Today on Jurassic Architect, we're going to be making a start on a brand new Jurassic Architect project. Hello and welcome back to Tricolor Gaming with me, Fletcher. And welcome to a different sort of Jurassic Architect video. Now in the past I've made plenty of videos looking at very specific Jurassic Park building techniques. We've been looking at gardens, or we've been looking at making better enclosures, or how to use maps in a better way, but they've always been videos in a singular way. This new series that I wanted to do over the next few weeks, we're going to construct a park together. We're going to build a park from the ground up, like a sort of a walkthrough, a build along if you will, with the idea being that as we go along, I'm going to be tackling different aspects of park building and hopefully give you guys some ideas, tips, tricks as we go along. And the fact that we're building a park at the same time means you can see how all of the ideas are implemented in a more realistic gameplay fashion. So for this idea, I'm going to build on the United Kingdom map, and there's a few reasons why I've picked this particular map. Firstly, I don't often see the United Kingdom map used by many park builders. I don't think it's a map that's kind of commonly picked when people are making parks, primarily due to its awkward shape and nature, so I think this represents a really great map to do a series like this on. Secondly, I wanted a map that's not too big, so that it's easy to build over a series of weeks. And thirdly, I kind of just like the idea of constructing a park on this map, because I have never actually finished a proper park on this map before. But I also think this map has some potential very interesting aspects to it, which makes it great for this sort of series. I've planned for about 8 or so parts. This part, we're going to be tackling the idea of the environment, the initial stages of getting to grips with the map, and preparing to start to build. Now, what do I mean by preparing to start to build? I think a lot of people, when they pick a map to play this game with, they will select a map, they will pick the pre-flattened option, and then they will load into that map and it will be completely bare and blank and flat, and they will end up being really stuck about where to build, how to get started. So tip number one, and this is something I've already done, but this is tip number one for you guys: don't use the flattened maps. I always advise that if you're going to use one of the basic maps that are in game, not the square maps, one of the basic maps, use the non-flattened basic versions of the maps, because then they come with trees and forestry and water and height difference as standard, and that can serve as inspiration. So let's have a look at this map in detail then. What do we have here? So the United Kingdom map is split into 3 primary sections. You have this largish area as section number 1. You then have this middle sort of triangular area as section number 2, and then you have this another sort of semi-rectangular mountained area as area number 3. So 3 very distinct locations, all reasonably the same size. It should be noted also that this section number 3, the lower area where the mountains are, this is actually a lot lower than the rest of the map. You can see here that there's a definite incline. And I want to maintain that height difference when I'm building the park. And that's the sort of things you should be looking out for. What are the natural details on the map, the things that I want to preserve when I'm building my parks? And this comes into the idea of, making your parks look natural and adding nature to the parks. So what else do we have on this map? Well, in terms of water, we don't actually have that much. We have a couple of puddles, one here, the biggest one here, and there's I think there's another little puddle in the corner of this map here, you see. There's no sort of through flow when it comes to water, and the map itself is probably a bit too small for anything like a massive lake or something. But I do want to preserve the water that's here already and use it to kind of guide my environmental additions. And this is tip number 2. Once you've had a look at your map and had a look and seen what's there, think about what do you want to add to the map in terms of its environment. Do you want to start adding your hills? Do you want to start adding rivers? Do you want to start adding lakes? Do you want valleys or big crevices in the ground? Think about what sort of environmental features you would like to add to the map at this early stage, because it's always easier to do it now than it is to start building the park and then think, oh, I want to have a mountain here, or I want to have a valley here, or a river here. If you do it at this stage, you can build the park around the environment instead of adding the environment to the park. Something I want to do here is make some sort of water course that stretches from this, what we're calling number 2 landmass, over to the number 3 landmass. Now, something else I want to do is also preserve this view, because this is a really beautiful view of the coastline, of the other side of the map here, the beach. I want to preserve this frontal viewing position, but I also want to add some difference in terrain height. So I'm probably going to sink the back of the map down and have the front of this, the first section, higher up. Now, something else I think people tend to do on this map is they tend to have quite a sort of a very campaign-driven idea of how the park should be built. They will put the entrance over here, which is where it is in campaign, and build the park upwards towards the mountain area. Or they'll put the entrance at the mountain area and build the park downwards. What I want to do is I'm going to use the middle area, section number 2. This is going to be where the entrance is going to be. And then the area over here I'm going to use for a tour. So this island, this area itself will just be a tour area. And then this area over here will be where we have more general enclosures. So what I'm going to do is show you how I will then progress with those ideas. Okay, so this is the next tip I have for you guys. Once you have a rough idea of what you want to do with the map, draw it onto the map using the terrain paints and give yourself a rough plan. So here's the rough plan. What I want to have is I want to have the entrance area down here next to this little pond. The pond is going to connect to a river. That's the stone that goes up here. I want there to be some sort of water feature here surrounded to create this sort of semicircular path. And this is then going to lead into a lagoon. We're going to have hotels, a tour station over here. The tour is going to go around this island, and it's going to go around the edge of the island in order to maximize the space inside. And then on the other side, we're going to have this. So this is where the raised area of the map is going to be. And then everything lower than that is going to be for enclosures, and then the river is going to snake the way through and connect to this water source over here, finishing off the map. That is the general gist. Drawing it out can be very beneficial to help give you some idea of the sort of space that you've got to play with here. But don't be afraid to sort of go off this plan. Never be scared to go off plan, and if something isn't working, delete it and start again. Now, what I need to do here is now put in all the environmental stuff. So I need to put the river in at this stage. I need to sort of kind of figure out where I want to put the water feature and where I'm going to put all the raise and lower terrain. So I'll be back once that's done. Okay, so just in the process of flattening this area, I have just come across another tip. When you are flattening parts of your park, remember to flatten areas to water level when you're doing it. So if I just show you here what I've done. This area I flattened, but it's not flattened to water level. You can see that technically the water is going to create like its own little lipped surface. So always make sure that you are leveling to water level. That way when you put water into enclosures or create things like rivers and such, it's just easier to figure out what you're doing with it and to sort of decorate the areas and such. So some of these water sources, interestingly on this map, some of these water sources are just in the wrong heights for me to work with, so I am going to have to alter them a little bit, but it shouldn't be too bad. Okay, so now we have the majority of the big environmental features done that I wanted to do for this map. So you can see that each area is now flattened to basic heights for the second section and this area here. You can see the water sources is put in the semicircular shape of water that I want dividing the entrance from the main park. We've kept the pond down here, and then we have the water source that runs all the way through the park. This side around, meandering along this pond down here, which is sunk and I've made bigger. And then we have the raised area that's going to overlook all of the enclosures on this side, and on the other side overlook the nice view that we've got going on. I do want to do some environmental work for the tour, but I'm going to leave that to the video where we actually look at the tour ride itself. After this, what I would then do is probably do the terrain painting and stuff, but I probably want to do that as another episode in itself as well. Another key thing to remember when you are putting big environmental features in, such as rivers, make sure it's not artificial in looking. You know, rivers curve naturally, so never make straight rivers. Never make perfectly circular ponds or lakes. Always try to vary their shape so that they look a little more natural. Same with mountains, try to make them look natural. And when we do the tour, what I've decided to do is I'm probably going to have a bit of a mountain range somewhere in the middle here, just to sort of divide the tour off. And when we get round to it, I will go over my ideas for how best to make a nice looking mountain ridge or similar. But that will be in a part of its own. So what is the next step? After you've done the environmental work and you've roughly planned out your park, the next step is to begin with the building. And I always suggest you start building with either an enclosure or the entrance. And I'm going to start with the entrance for this particular map. So in the next part of this Jurassic Architect series, I'm going to go over the different entrance buildings, where best to use them, which one we're going to pick for this particular map, and we're going to build the initial entrance area and start constructing the park down here where the big E is. So join me in the next part of this walk along or walk through or build along to take part in that. Don't forget, if there's anything you'd like to see me tackling in Jurassic Architect, whether it's this build or in other videos, do let me know down in the comments down below. And don't forget to subscribe if you are new to the channel. I know this was quite a short, not a very build heavy section of the video, but I wanted to go through step by step so people can see sort of what I do when I'm constructing parks. So next video, we'll get into the nitty gritty and start building. But until then, stay safe and goodbye.